We're much more concerned about our health as the Lord gives us more years. I'm saying that there are things that we need to be thankful for, things that God is doing, that I believe He demonstrates what real, what a real heart and real spirit is all about. Notice with me the trouble in one's house. The trouble in one's own house. In humanity springs from a person's desire to possess that belonging to another. Lust of one country for soil of another has often let loose war and pillage on the innocent. We see that geopolitically speaking, we can look at the world today and we see the same reasons for war that seem to, as far as those that are warring, justify war, really can be traced back in many cases to greed. I want more of this, I want more of that, I want more country, I want more real estate, I want more power, I want more control. But that sounds like a big, giant picture for the world, but the truth is we have the same attitude, the same heart. I said a moment ago that this can happen even in ministry. I've seen preachers who are jealous of other preachers. How come, he's got more folks, on Sunday morning than I do, and I sure do wish that, we had, a couple of, more gifted, talented people like that fella down the street does, and we have a smile on our face and we pretend like everything's okay, but I can tell you, preachers can even get a wrong heart and a wrong spirit. And that whole business of greed can creep in. Before you know it, you're way more concerned about how well your church is doing so that you might look good than the real business of getting ministry done in the first place. It happens in the workplace. It happens, yes, even at home. But the truth is, for each and every one of us, it can personally happen in any setting at any time. Our hearts can be wrong, and we can be the one who causes the problem. You're talking about trouble in the home? May I tell you that there are many families today who are suffering because the breadwinner of that family took risk and made mistakes and spent and used finances that God had blessed that family with in a wrong way, and they're suffering today because of it. There is a problem today that, yes, it even exists inside of the church, where we see this business of greed taken all the way to that point where someone is involved in gambling. I have, over the years, counseled with people who are struggling. Now, the truth is, everything you want to do, you can do online. You don't have to walk out into public, and we know that is one of the real problems that we have today. And I know that there are people today who are struggling with gambling, and it may be silly little funny things that they didn't think were that big of a deal, some online gambling site or something like that. And before you know it, they are spending just a whole bunch of money. And it all goes back to greed. The Bible doesn't say that money is the root of all evil, but the love of money. And the love of more, the rush or the high with getting something more. You see, a person's inner being is destroyed by greed. Greed causes some to commit sordid sins on a daily basis. A merchant who is ripping off his customers, a clerk who puts his hand in the till, a salesperson who lies on his reports and is unscrupulous when it comes to his dealings, and how many of us laugh at, but it's true, the way we feel about some salespeople. We don't believe a word that comes out of their mouth. They're one notch below a lawyer. How do you know when a lawyer's lying? when their lips are moving, right? And we know that all of this goes back to greed. You know, I would say that the unpardonable sin of the 20th century is, in our eyes, too sadly, poverty. We hear a preacher get up and preach about greed, and we kind of listen, but we're dismissing it because we're more bothered by somebody who looks like they can't get ahead, looks like they never have much, and we don't think much of them. You know, we're supposed to be very careful to not be a respecter of persons regarding who might walk in the door. Right. But we know in our heart and in our spirit that we need to be on guard, that if somebody drives up in a new car wearing nicer clothes, doesn't receive more accolades and admiration from us and is more warmly received than someone who obviously doesn't have all of those things. In our mindset, we actually right away think that it's something that this person's doing wrong if they don't have the nicest car or they don't seem to be able to hold down a very good job. Now, in some cases, that might in fact be the case, but often we just have that attitude. We reward greed. The reason why greed has a way with us is because of what it can accomplish for us. We like the attaboys and the pats on the back. We like people admiring what we have. We like people thinking that we have arrived. Listen, all you got to do is watch the television commercials. They're not selling 4 tires and a bunch of metal and more plastic than metal and charging you some unbelievable price. By the way, next time you have nothing to do, sit down and figure out what that vehicle actually cost you over the next 7 years after you paid all of the interest on that car and everything else that's involved. What they're selling you is status. What they're selling you is a feeling, an emotion. And what appeals to us is the fact that somebody's going to look at us and think that we are somebody, someone, and we know that this all is the root sin, greed. You know, I still have to say it. I preface everything I'm saying this morning with this. Don't think I'm not saying that we shouldn't do our very best. Don't think that you shouldn't work hard and get ahead. Don't think that it's not important to make good, sound financial decisions. It all is. But isn't it amazing how it all changes when we really, truly are doing what we're doing for the glory of God? When a missions work is doing what they need to be doing for the glory of God, it makes all the difference. They need finances to be able to exist. When a church is doing all that it can do for the glory of God, when they're realizing that every dollar that is spent in light of another soul being saved is their highest priority, God will bless that. Yeah. But if we just want the nicest facility so that we can fold our arms and say that we're the best looking church in town, first of all, we're not going to accomplish that. That's not going to happen. And secondly, our heart is wrong. I like a Shulamite church myself. You say, what are you talking about, preacher? I'm talking about a church that's got some wear and tear on it that shows that somebody has been there, that there's some work getting done, that somebody's showing up, that somebody's walking up and down the carpet and getting some things done. Now, we'll do our best to take good care of what God has given us, but we're going to use it for His glory and His honor. You see how it fits, how it works? It's all about everything that we're involved in. That's right, the unpardonable sin of poverty. We look at people and think, oh my, you don't have it together very much, do you? How about this? One offspring of greed, as I mentioned a moment ago, truly is gambling. But it's not just going and playing an online, card game or buying lottery tickets, but it can be making unwise decisions How many have heard of some of the get-rich-quick schemes that are out there? And how many have been told this when they were a child, but somehow they forget it later on, that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Amen? And when somebody comes along and says, look, you can make all this money with zero effort and just a small investment, and it will change your life, you need to be careful about that. And you need to ask yourself, what is that person doing right now? He's appealing to the sin of greed that can well up in my spirit. I have seen it happen in ministries. I've seen ministries go and make the mistake of investing monies in something that they thought would turn into this or that, and it didn't happen. We just need to be careful about those kinds of things. And every time you turn around, there's a new somebody who's got a new something, and it's a new way to get rich quick. Be careful. Be careful about those things. Many of us can say we have fallen into that in the past, and I would only say we need to be careful. And finally this morning, how about this? Living beyond bribes. Living beyond bribes. He that despises bribes shall live. How about that? You see, that's where the rubber meets the road. There's where the problem lies. Know that there are better things than money. You didn't like it when your parents said that to you when you were a kid. You didn't like it when you, when somebody else would say that to you. You probably don't like me saying it very much. But the truth is, I've been around long enough to know, and it took me a while to figure this out, but I need this more today than I ever have in my entire life. There are better things than wealth. Our families. Now, first and foremost, let me just say without apology, coming to know Jesus Christ early in life and walking with Him for the rest of your life is the very best plan for life, and that will not change and it must not change. But even after we've trusted Christ, we know the sin of greed can creep in. Let's stop and consider. Let's stop and just rejoice in some of the things that are even better than things that the world might offer, or that the Lord might allow you to have. How about this? The blessings of good health. I would say, as I consider the amount of prayer requests that are sent out on a daily basis, we have the technology to text out prayer requests now. Some of you are thinking you're going to get rid of your text messaging plan because Daryl Miller is always on their phone. How many see that word pastor pop up way often? Amen? And you're thinking, in case he runs into me, I better make sure I read that text. You know? But the truth is, most of the time it's going to be a prayer request, isn't it? Most of the time, I'm texting you because I believe you're going to take the time to pray. And most of the time, we're going to be praying for somebody who is dealing with a health issue. 90% of the time, it's going to be the case. And for some of us, we've been praying for some that have struggled with their health. Mary, I can't help but think of your sister who, you know, for the 9 years that I've known her, has struggled with her health. And to be by her bedside and pray for her through this possible stroke is what becomes way more important than a whole lot of other things. I can't help but think of Betty, who has, over these last few years, been doing all that she can do to minister to her sister who had a tumor and has had that tumor regrow and has had to have it removed again and is going through therapy right now. May I say that the blessings of good health is something that we don't want to take for granted. And just to get a good report from the doctor is a big deal. And yes, there are things that are more important than, yes, just stuff. How about this one? And this is one that I've been praying for. How about a keen intelligence? No. Just to be able to actually still have a brain